Welcome back. The Parliamentary Standing Committee for Law and Justice held a meeting yesterday on the Uniform Civil Code. Sources indicated that opposition parties have questioned the government's intent, with many tribal states raising the concern around the land rights. Opposition MPs allege that government is making the pitch, keeping the elections in mind. 19 lakh suggestions, public suggestions, have been received by the Law Commission so far. The numbers are expected to rise with the deadline on the 13th of July. A crucial meet was also held between Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami and Union Home Minister Amit Shah last night. The chairman of the drafting committee for the state also has a special panel for UCC. He was also present as Uttarakhand already has a draft proposal which is ready for Uniform Civil Code. But could that proposal serve as a model for the nation? Is there something that the country can learn from a state like Uttarakhand, which also has a provision for special land rights? On Viewpoint tonight, we decode the complex legal web that the Uniform Civil Code is trying to navigate through, and more importantly, the complicated issue of land rights and tribal rights, which has come to haunt the law panel and all the experts which are trying to work around this issue.
चूँकि यूसीसी कमेटी का ड्राफ्ट कंप्लीट रूप से हमें नहीं मिला है और उनका ड्राफ्ट जब मिलेगा तो उस पर तभी कुछ कह पाना संभव होगा। हम बहुत देर भी नहीं करेंगे और जल्दबाजी में जो है ऐसा काम भी नहीं होगा कि जो है कि कोई ऊपर का नीचे हो जाए, इसलिए बहुत सोच समझकर उस पर काम होगा।
That is pretty simple. We have the Special Marriage Act. We have the Indian Succession Act. This is the law of marriage and divorce. It will apply to all Indians, irrespective of caste, creed, or color.
I'm a strong believer in the Uniform Civil Code. I think it's a historical necessity. I think a nation needs one law.
So let's get you an overview. We have spoken about various issues, the Muslim personal law, the uniform age of marriage, the issue of polygamy. But there is one issue that has perplexed the Law Commission even earlier under Justice B.S. Chauhan, and that is the issue under Article 371 under the 6th schedule, also the 6th schedule of Indian Constitution. Let's get you an overview of the current legal hurdles the UCC faces given the complex legal web. I'm particularly talking about the tribal rights and the land rights and the autonomous regions that have been created under special provisions of Indian Constitution. Article 371A and the 6th schedule, they carve out certain exceptions. These are special provisions that provide protections in family law. These exceptions have been carved out for the northeastern states, and there are other states as well. Exceptions are in place for states like Andhra Pradesh and Goa along with the northeast. There are exceptions in terms of land law, family law, inheritance and succession. Let's talk about these exceptions under Article 371 Part A. What are these exceptions? No Act of Parliament shall apply in certain matters to certain areas, especially the northeastern region, especially Nagaland. An Act of Parliament needs approval of the State Assembly. Religious and social practices are protected. The Naga customary law and the procedure around it has been protected under Indian Constitution. Civil and criminal justice happens via Naga customary law. Yes, there are certain provisions of the CRPC which apply, but there's a huge body of customary law that also apply. As I said, many provisions of the Criminal Procedure Code are not applicable in a state like Nagaland. Now, as per the law, which is prevalent in the northeastern states, the matriarchal customs are protected. There are tribes, Garo and Khasi tribes, which are matriarchal in nature. These tribals follow the female line of descent and property. So the entire argument around inheritance is somewhere turned upside down. The son-in-law comes to live with the wife's parents. Now, as per the current law, let's decode the autonomous region, Article 244.2 and 275.1. Between these two provisions lies the 6th schedule that encapsulates the gist of these exceptions. These are provision for administration of tribal areas. Areas of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram are covered. The creation of special council for various issues is permitted. Local councils, they rule on matters like marriage, succession. Local customs are protected. So that's largely about the land rights, the tribal rights, the inheritance issues which are recognized, accepted in Indian Constitution that they cannot be covered under a common civil code. Even CRPC doesn't apply in various areas. Well, let's take this question to a panel of guests as well who are joining us on the broadcast. We have Mr. Deshrathan Nigam, who's a lawyer and political analyst. CA Pradeep Bhati, who's from the Samajwadi Party, is also joining us on the broadcast. Vishnu Jain, who's an advocate on record at the Supreme Court, with us on the broadcast. Kapil Madan, who's a lawyer and political analyst, also with us on the show. Vishnuji, I want you to open the debate. When we talk about a uniform civil code, we talk about equality between men and women. And rightly so, I don't think there can be any caveat to that. There should be equal rights and opportunities. But the last law commission under Justice B.S. Chauhan, when it came to the 6th schedule, they were divided. They said, look, this is a very tricky issue and we have to tread here very, very cautiously. It's just not about the Northeast, Goa, Andhra Pradesh. There are certain other issues where, states where tribal rights are concerned. When we talk of a uniform civil code, how is it that we can tread through this tricky and treacherous domain of land rights, which will come somewhere when we talk about the idea of uniform civil code under the law of inheritance?
First of all, this is a very, very interesting phase of the debate so far as uniform civil code is concerned. And I would really like to appreciate CNN so far as this aspect of the matter is concerned, because this is very, very important legal issue.
Yes.
I want to highlight paragraph 12A of the 6th schedule. Paragraph 12A is very, very pari materia with the other northeastern states, except Nagaland, where the provision is that the President of India, when they pass any law, so far as it is in conformity with the various aspects of the Constitution, in that law passed by the Parliament, there can be that law passed by the Parliament will prevail over the various customs usage in other areas or inheritance and everything. So law passed by the Parliament will prevail is mentioned in paragraph 12A of the 6th schedule. Only exception is the state of Nagaland by virtue of Article 371A, where if a law is passed by the Parliament, it has to be approved by the state legislature. But so far as other northeastern states are concerned, the 6th schedule, paragraph 12A, and like that there are other pari materia paragraphs so far as other northeastern states are concerned, which say that the law passed by the Parliament will prevail. And in that law passed by the Parliament, there can be exceptions and modifications taking into account the various geographical and tribal features of various northeastern states. So point number 1 is that under paragraph 3 of 6th schedule, there are 3 entries which are very, very crucial, and those entries are the marriage, the customs, and the succession.
Yes.
So the exclusive domain to make laws so far as this aspect is concerned is of the autonomous district council. But then under paragraph 12, there is an overriding effect.
No, Vishnuji, I take that broad point that you're saying, that somewhere the union government has the power to make a law which can override the customary law. I think that's the broad point that you're making. My argument here is that when we talk about the idea of a uniform civil code, it's not so much technical and legal in nature. A part of it might be, but a huge part of it is also political in nature. And these issues, especially concerning the land rights, local custom, inheritance, are very, very sensitive issues when it comes to the northeastern region, when it comes to tribals, when it comes to different parts of the country. So I believe on the sentiment and the politicality of it is also very important.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So far as northeastern regions are concerned, it's a very, very sentimental issue because they are governed by their own customary laws. And therefore, when I am speaking on this debate of uniform civil code, I have made a grand norm, which is which I feel that which should be the baseline for all the political parties and all the parliamentarians to debate on, which is that so far as criminal aspects are concerned, it should govern the entire country. For example, section 494 bigamy provision is there. So if bigamy is an offense for the entire country, POSCO section 3 is an offense for the entire country, irrespective of religion, irrespective of tribe. There are certain issues of female justice, of gender justice, of female dignity, which has to be a grand norm when you are enacting the provisions of uniform civil code.
That's an interesting argument to begin with. And by that, Vishnuji, I also think what you're saying is that a lot of things can be achieved by rationalizing or making them applicable, the present laws which already exist on the statute book, instead of bringing something new, which we should at some point. Mr. Deshrathan Nigam, I want to come to you. One of the key criticism of the present government has been that there is no consolidated, solid, substantial proposal on the table. Yes, we all agree that there should be a uniform civil code, gender justice. That is, I don't believe there is anybody in today's day and age who can say that there should be no gender justice. But what about the tricky issue of tribal rights, land rights? In fact, this was one issue on which the last Law Commission had a hiccup, and they said, how are we even going to deal with this?
Well, Anusha, in fact, the primary focus we must not lose sight of, which is women's exploitation and not providing them equal rights.
Yes.
That is the primary focus of Uniform Civil Code. I'm not going into the criminal side because we are dealing with the civil aspect of this code. Now, when you look at the tribals, women have more rights and the men agree to that. Men are not demanding that these women should not be given the rights. Please remember that. So there is no conflict out there. And secondly, the constitutional safeguards to the customary rights that they have. In the case of the rest of the country, if you leave aside 371 A, B, C, F, G, H, the rest of the country, the issue is the discrimination with the women and not being given equal rights. So please remember the distinction that is being made from the Northeast and the rest of the country. The men out there want to stay in their wife's house.
No,
Both
but
of them agree.
Mr. Nigam, I agree with you. I agree with you that when it's a matriarchal society, women have far more, which is given to them, say, in a patriarchal setup. I agree with you there. But when we talk about a uniform civil code, would all of these customs go away? Would the government also dare to touch on the customs of the Northeast? That's a question that a lot of political opponents are asking, sir.
I'm answering.
Yes,
the
sir.
fact remains that when there is a harmony in society and men and women both agree on certain things, where women have rights and they agree. Over the period of time, those rights have gone to the women. There is a clear pattern, this thing. Therefore, there is complete harmony. However, on the other side, the demand is coming from the women through various courts, judge announcements.
I've taken
so
that
is the distinction.
Yes, I take that distinction. Mr. Pradeep Bhati, I'm coming to you. At the outset of the debate, I elucidated and I spoke in detail about how the issue of land rights and tribal rights is a very important, sensitive issue, and the government must look at it very, very closely. That this issue was one of the key reasons that we could not have a proposal in favor of a uniform civil code from the Law Commission under Justice B.S. Chauhan, the last Law Commission that was formed in. That being said, is the issue of the 6th schedule or various other provisions of the Indian Constitution being used as some kind of a subterfuge because you don't want to touch upon the Muslim personal law? A crucial distinction that Mr. Deshratan Nigam made is that, yes, there is a problem. There is a particular issue of land rights that we need to recognize and we need to deal with. But in majority of the country, there needs to be a rationalization of personal laws pertaining to marriage, divorce and inheritance. And that's an issue one can't skirt. Mr. Bhati.
Thank you and good evening to all.
Good evening.
You're right that there should be some uniformity should exist in the system. But my question is that it's not about any particular religion. It's all about all the religions. It's not about because Hindu undivided families also getting affected because of that and tribals, and we have already discussed. Other states like Goa and Northeast are getting affected because of that. But our fundamental question is because there is such a crucial issue where all the like religion, legality, constitutional, social implications it has. So we have to understand the seriousness of this. BJP has good enough time for 9 years, and BJP is saying that it was there in their manifesto also. So who was stopping them to bring it timely and thoroughly discuss and debate this very important issue? So why this Pandora box every time opens in the end of the few last months of the when we are in the verge of
can I make an outlandish argument here that if there is a particular political party which has a certain core agenda, the UCC is a legislative political agenda of the BJP, why shouldn't they talk about it before the elections is my question to you. As long as it is a reformist move, as long as the government wants to tread upon it very cautiously and seriously, giving it the right kind of importance, Why shouldn't the government talk about it? Mr. Bhatti, I want to understand another point from you. I'm coming back to you. Vishnuji at the beginning of the debate made a very interesting suggestion, and that's a suggestion I want to float to everyone and take their responses. That bigamy is an offence, say, under the Indian Penal Code, but there are certain customary practices, especially under the Muslim personal law, where bigamy does not apply to tribals as well. Should there be a generic mandamus of sort or a declaration of sort that bigamy is going to be an offence in this country? Is that a suggestion or a proposal that you and your political party are open to? Polygamy should be outlawed in this country. Mr. Bhatti.
See, first the government has to bring a draft of it. We are definitely we are all political parties. There are few things which should go above the politics.
So
and
in principle, you are against polygamy and and the practice of having multiple wives.
Goa already has that. So first thing is that let the draft come, and then we as a political party will decide what is the best course, what is the best interest of the woman, and best we are for all the rights of the woman. We are not against anything. So let the draft come so that we can take a stand. We have the clear picture with us. So the reason
I understand the reluctance that you have in clearing your stand, but my question was very pointed on polygamy. Mr. Kapil Madan, coming to you, a lot of political parties like Samajwadi Party, even the Congress, they're like, where is the draft? The draft needs to be on table. While that's a tangible and an important question to ask, but there has to be an in-principle agreement across the country. We need a uniform civil code. What the form and structure is going to be, there needs to be a national debate on this issue. But in principle, I don't understand the reluctance of any political party to say we should outlaw polygamy in this country. It cannot happen. Child marriages under any personal law should not be permitted.
Well, Anusha, let me say it very, very candidly here. There cannot be any second thought that, we should talk about gender equality. We should talk about equal rights. And that's the sign of any healthy and a progressive society. I mean, there cannot be any, second thoughts about it. But now, if you look at the entire debate, which is happening, if you may recall in 1998, BJP for the first time announced that they will bring uniform civil code, and since then the BJP has been in power for 3 terms, 1999 under the leadership of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and since 2014 it is Mr. Modi who's leading the BJP. Now the point is, if you look at the undercurrent behind this entire discussion, to me it sounds more of a political agenda rather than a reformative agenda. Now, I completely agree with you. Yes, our laws, there are different laws, there are different discrepancies, and the laws sometimes, discriminate. And if you look at the 2018 Law Commission's report that was being published under the chairmanship of Justice Chauhan, he pointed out under the Hindu law, different acts that are prevalent. Christians have different laws, different grounds for divorce. Parsis have their own set of grounds.
But
Hindu
Kapil,
under the
I think the moot question, and I'll take this to Mr. Deshratan Nigam and Vishnu Jain as well. Vishnu, one of the moot things that have been spoken around Uniform Civil Code, and personally to me that argument doesn't appeal, that this looks more like a political agenda. Uniform Civil Code should be a political agenda of any political party that wants reform in this country. It was the agenda that Baba Bhimrao Ambedkar was after. He wanted the Congress party to put their legislative might behind it. And despite multiple attempts, it was after much hardship that it was made a reality. We cannot divorce the politics around Uniform Civil Code from the merits or the reform of it. They are deeply intertwined.
See, I think that it's more of a gender justice issue. And let me just quote Article 15, Subclause 3. We all are forgetting this important mandate from the Constitution, which says, nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any special provision for women and children. So this is the mandate of the Constitution, that there has to be a special provision for women and children. And now let me tell you, Sati Abolition Act 1987, the Sati practice which was happening in the Hindu society was abolished. Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, which was brought in saying that child marriage will be abolished, but it is happening in various other religions. Then there is Hindu Widow Remarriage Act 1856, as well as Hindu Succession Act 1956 Section 6, which gave equal rights to daughter. So the point is that we as a society have come forward and said that, look, These are the rights which a woman should have in the society and which must be given across the board. And therefore, when we are talking about uniform civil code, Anusha, let me highlight a very, very important aspect on this debate on your channel. Female genital mutilation. It's a very, very important issue which is pending before 7 judges of the Supreme Court. And the argument is that female genital mutilation is valid and it is not violative of Section 3.
And part of essential religious practice. That is what they said.
Essential religious practice.
Yes,
so now today I put a question. Now today I put a question to myself whether female genital mutilation must be protected as an essential religious practice, and if a parliament is bringing a law. Forget about politics of this matter. If a parliament is bringing law for protection of important dignity of a woman, is it not a mandatory duty of the parliamentarians to bring such a law? Where is the politics in this? So then there's the issue of child marriage.
But Vishnu, how do you deal with that argument that there is nothing substantial on table right now? There is no draft that the government has put for wider consultations.
See, first of all, this entire argument is wrong for a very, very important reason, that today the Law Commission has asked for suggestions. We are asking everyone to participate in this legislative process. When we are asking everyone to participate in this legislative process, the question is, where is the draft? It's the duty of all the citizens of this country to prepare a draft. It's a duty of everyone. So there is no question of a draft being now. We are actually debating on the topics on which we are seeking uniformity. And therefore, I suggest that on the aspect of divorce, there has to be a uniform ground of divorce. On the question of inheritance, there has to be a ground of inheritance where we need uniformity. There has to be a total ban on polygamy, bigamy, female genital mutilation,
and child marriages in this country.
And child marriages.
Mr. Bhati, let's take that point forward. If I were to ask the Samajwadi Party that they, in their right wisdom and reform, what do they think about uniform civil code or the rationalization of personal laws that exist across the country? It's an interesting argument that Vishnu makes, that Law Commission is seeking recommendations and consultations from people at large, and that's an exercise that should be done in any democracy before a reform of this nature is brought in. Are there any constructive suggestions that, say, a political party like yours have when we talk about a UCC? Is codification something that the Samajwadi Party suggests? Is a complete overhaul something that we suggest? What is the thinking on this particular issue?
See, we welcome all the suggestions. First thing is that Samajwadi Party believes in equal rights. There should be no gender inequality and equal rights for men and women. So there is no doubt about it. And we will fight for that. We have already, in our last election manifesto, we have also given we have proposed a reservation for the women, which was in fact the 2019 manifesto of BJP, that 33% reservation in Parliament for women. Why they have not initiated that also? 5 years have gone, almost 5 years have gone, and we are still talking about the equal rights to the women. Why we are not discussing about those?
Well, sir, I believe as a thinking woman and citizen of this country that this issue should have been discussed few years after the independence. We should have done much more about it. It wasn't done because the conservative within any religion had hijacked the reform in this country, and I don't think that should happen again.
I don't think it should be taken in that way. We are a progressive society. There should be a consensus that has to be built, that the ruling party is the party which has to make the consensus. Even the NDA is not being taken into consideration or consensus process. The NDA, another national party within the NDA, has clearly stated that
consensus. Mr. Deshratan Nigam, can there be a political consensus even within the NDA? Because there's an interesting point that Mr. Bhati makes, that even parties like Akali, who were former NDA allies, have opposed the idea of a uniform civil code.
NPP also.
Yes.
NPP.
Yes. Mr. Deshratan Nigam.
Anusha, in fact, the Shiromani Akali Dal, which is opposing, is actually governed by the Uniform Civil Code, which was given to Hindus in 1955 and 56, because Sikhs, under the definition, are part of Hindus. So they already have Uniform Civil Code. Among the Hindus, the Uniform Civil Code, which was to be applied to everyone, was opposed by certain communities and actually became a Hindu code bill.
Yes.
So Shrimati Akali Dal actually is, under the Uniform Civil Code, but for politics, they are opposing it. Now, let me also bring out the fact that everybody on this panel agrees that Uniform Civil Code is a very good product. Nobody is denying that. But they have a doubt on the process. Hey, hold on. In principle, I am saying. In principle, please remember. However, they are doubting the process. Please don't interrupt.
Let him finish his argument. Yes, Mr. Nigam.
I never interrupt
yes,
anybody.
We have last 2 minutes on the show. Go ahead, Mr. Nigam.
So therefore, they have doubt on the process. Being first, it is brought by BJP. Second, on the delay. You say BJP has delayed it. I will implement it. But none of the opposition parties are saying so.
As I close this debate, I began with the argument and the concern around the special tribal rights and land rights. Vishnu, I'm coming back to you for closing arguments. Can there be a special exception carved out? Even a country like Canada and various other countries across the world, democracies, have special autonomous regions where special laws apply. Is that an exception that we can consider when we talk about the northeastern region specifically?
Definitely, there can be an exception, no doubt about it. And that exception is provided in the Constitution in Chapter 12A of 6th Schedule. But the point is that we all have to believe that this very important grand norm, that there has to be women dignity, women-centric issues, and there has to be women rights. If there is any law or custom which is violating that, then it will be hit by provisions of Article 15, Article 15(1) and 3, and therefore the Parliament has the power to override that custom.
75 years of Indian independence and women are yet to get complete equality in this country. Personal was never personal. It was always political. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast and being part of this very important debate. Well, Uniform Civil Code is very important. It's necessary, but it's not without its hiccups and challenges. It's a wrap on this edition. Thank you for watching.